Hello my beautiful creatives and welcome back to my art channel. My name is Chrissie B and I'm a creativity coach hoping to inspire you to live a more creative life every day. Now today we're going to be working on our soul books and I have a layout that I'd like to do for a 30-day challenge which I would like to start April 1st. Now I don't know exactly what that's going to be but I do know that I want to use some of the holes, the dots that we had created from this spread. So I've got 30 of those I'm going to use as my little tracker, because essentially what I want to do is I want to create a tracker for my 30-day challenge that will start April 1st. And that's what this spread is going to be all about. Now I have gessoed this layout and I have let it completely dry. And I think I want to do like an abstract-y kind of painting on it as kind of a cool background, and then put these little guys on it white side up, so that not only can I put the number of each day onto these little pieces of paper, but also maybe write a really quick tiny note like went well, or learned lots, or not so hot, or so tired, or I can just put some kind of a comment on there that kind of says how the action for that day went. Now I hadn't decided if I wanted to use my watercolors or if I wanted to use my acrylics. But because my watercolors are sitting here, I'm going to start with them. And these are my Schmincke watercolors. And I'm going to do a warm color palette because I kind of do this. Like this spread is very random. It's like warm, cold, warm, cold, warm, cold. I have another cold, and now I want a warm. That's kind of how I figure it out. Otherwise, I get kind of stuck in a rut of doing all colds or all warms because, I don't know, that's just kind of how my brain works, and I kind of get into this funk where that's what I'm doing is what I'm going to keep doing forever and ever and ever. Amen. So, let me move some stuff out of the way here because holy moly, what a mess this table is. Those are all of my extra dots. I've got a ton of these little guys. Here's the ones I'm going to use. Here's these ones. I'm going to have like 1,000 projects more to go using these little guys. That's okay. I'm going to just choose a large watercolor brush, size 12, which this is the Royal and Langnickel brushes. I love these the most. I use them all the time. And to make my life easy, I'm going to spray my entire spread with water just to kind of get things started. I want things to kind of really slip and slide around. And I'm not quite sure if I'm going to do just watercolor or if I'm going to do watercolor and then do acrylic on top of that. But because I don't use the heat tool at the moment, we're just going to kind of play it by ear. And I'm going to go very orangey apparently because that's the color I dip my brush into. I'm doing a lot of orange this year. I'm not sure where that's coming from, but you know, just kind of intuitively, when you work intuitively, that's just kind of what happens. Just kind of sponge that around, scrub it around a little bit. Make sure there's plenty of water here. This page has a lot of blue bleeding through from the page before it. That happens when you add a lot of watercolor to your sketchbook, which I do all the time. I don't mind that. It just gives me a challenge on the next page, or it also not only gives me a challenge, but sometimes it gives me a jumping off point. So I don't have to worry about a blank page completely because there's something on the page already. So I'm going to add another color, different color. And I think I'm going to choose a red, like a really good deepy maroony burgundy red. Again, not really having a plan, but knowing that I want this page to be warm. And for some reason, the water in here is drying really fast. which is fine. I'm not gonna be too worried about this level because this is just a layer. This is kind of my warm-up step. This is how I get my muscles working, my creativity muscles revving back up to let them know, hey, we really are doing this today. We really are back in the art studio. We really are playing. So get ready, girls, because here we go. It's kind of my thinking. So yeah, I have lots of like little steps that I do, and this is just one of them. Because I've gessoed, I do have the ability to add water to the spread and like move it around more than if this were just on the sketchbook paper. Because sketchbook paper is pretty thin and it will just soak up. It will just soak right up into the paper. But the gesso kind of helps that a little bit. So you can kind of see that, kind of scrubbing that, moving around a little bit. God bless this palette. This palette can get a little heavy in the hand. Let's do some left-handed painting just to kind of loosen it up a little bit. The way that I loosen up my painting whenever I'm doing this, especially when I'm being very abstract-y, is I do two things. One, I will paint with both hands. So sometimes left, sometimes right. I will do a lot of scrubby, and I hold the brush kind of high. So I'm not worried about getting lots of detail in. Just kind of about getting color down on the page. Now, because this is not proper watercolor paper, it's going to curl quite a bit. And I'm okay with that. I actually like that a lot. I like that it helps the book Alligator open, so it looks fuller and more well-loved. A well-loved soul book is exactly how I want my soul book to look every year, so that's cool. It will flatten out a little bit after it's completely dried and I close the book. I generally have a tendency to store my soul book under piles of books so that it really gets flattened down. Let's choose a different orange. It's kind of bright tomato-y orange. See what it does. Again, I don't really have a plan. These are just the very, very, very underpants of my painting, my spread, my page. Kind of get some things going there. So let's see, what else? I am getting over being sick, so you probably can hear that a little bit in my voice still. I actually feel much better. I just kind of have a little bit of a cough still, so I have to be a little bit careful. For a while there, I thought for sure I had pneumonia. I was getting pneumonia. I wasn't. I don't think. But the coughing has still been a little bit tricky. Usually I go into a coughing fit if I start laughing, which in my world happens a lot because we laugh a lot. My hubby and I, we are big laughers. Let's pick a yellowy kind of orange. Just to add another color in here. And bits and pieces. Just kind of pepper it around a little bit. Pepper it around, if that makes sense. Sometimes my brain thinks a little bit faster than my mouth can actually speak. So I think that's probably a good start. It's definitely not the final dressing. I know there's going to be more. You know what I really love about the gesso, and this is why I do the gesso, is that when I put my gesso on, I put it on kind of, I usually put it on really thin, or I put it on really, I put it on pretty messy actually. And the reason I do that is because if you look at all these little modeling that's happening in different areas, that is happening because there are bits and pieces of my page that don't have gesso touching it. So when the watercolor hits those parts of the pages, it behaves differently than the gessoed portions. So the watercolor that hits the gesso portion sits on top, and the part where there's kind of like splotchiness, it's because the watercolor is not hitting gesso and it's soaking down into the paper. So I personally like that a lot. It gives me a lot of visual texture, and I'm going to just go with that. I'm going to tilt my book just a little bit, probably both ways, just to get some flowing going. Flowing going. Hilarious. Just kind of let that, see where they kind of stop. You can kind of hit your book down onto your table a little bit. That kind of helps that process. I generally don't do that, but you can. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Now, because I'm not using any heat tools to dry any of my work, I'm gonna let this completely dry, and I'm actually just gonna leave it alone. Now, for me, right now, the way this looks, it's very messy and it's very warm, which I really like. But this is the very, very, very back layer of color. So we're gonna do a couple more layers on top of that, and then we'll finish it out, because really the idea is that this spread will be my 30-day tracker for my April 30-day challenge. Now, I don't know what my challenge is gonna be. I don't know if I said this already, so I apologize if I had, but it will either be like 30 days of meditation, or 30 days of yoga, or 30 days of walking out in nature, or 30 days of flossing my teeth, or 30 days of getting up at a certain time every morning. It might be 30 days of, I don't know, having a morning routine or something. I'm not exactly sure what it's going to be, but I know that I want this spread to be the tracker for April, so that way I have a way to basically have a pretty way to track that for the month. So that's the idea at the moment. Right now I'm gonna go ahead and just take a break, walk away for a little while, and let this completely dry, because it will take a bit to do, because it is watercolor sitting on top of the gesso. I'm gonna try really hard not to blot anything. Sometimes I get impatient, I wanna blot areas, and when I blot things, it just kind of lifts the color up, but it doesn't really, like, I don't know, it's just impatience. So I'm just gonna walk away and let this completely dry, and I'll be back in just a few minutes. Okay, so I'm back, and that is mostly dry. I have decided that I'm going to come back in with some watercolor, or with some acrylic paints to paint over the top of it. So I've grabbed myself a paintbrush. I'm not going to wash my paintbrush, because I just generally don't. And I'm going to use 3 Dina Wakley heavy body acrylic paints. I'm going to use Lemon, which is a yellow, Cheddar, which is an orange, and Ruby, which is a red. Just because I think that mimics what I've already kind of got going on in there. There's a part of me that wanted to use fuchsia, so I'm going to pull that out just in case. And I kind of want to use my tangerine instead of the cheddar, because the cheddar is really like orange. I guess tangerine is orange too, but I'm going to start with my yellow because it's the lightest color, and just kind of put, I'm really just mimicking what's here. I just want it to be brighter, more vivacious, because it's my background. And that's just kind of how I like it. I like them bright. And I'm just gonna really scrub this. Whoops, I'm flinging papers everywhere. I want this to be nice and bright. I don't want mousy and muted at all. I'm not a mousy and muted kind of a girl. But I do love abstract. So that's kind of where we're gonna go with that. So the next darkest color, I like to do the lightest, then the medium, then the darkest, and then kind of like go from there, just playing it by ear. I'm almost out of tangerine. I'm going to get myself some more, especially that this paint is being discontinued. They're not going to make it anymore. Oh, I'm so sad about that. Ranger, why are you doing this to me? I really love this paint. Love it because it's whipped and it really floats along the pages really, really, really well. So there's one. I may have gone a little heavy-handed with how much orange I put out. Let's see. Just kind of get all that scrubbed out. Not really using anything to protect pages behind, so I'm hoping I don't make a huge mess, but I'm not going to worry too much if I do. It's kind of the nature of how I art journal. But really, just scrub, scrub, scrub. That's how I like it. And see how the watercolor, it's still there, but you're not going to see a lot of it. Oops. I had a timer set for myself so I wouldn't forget to come back and check to see if my watercolor was dry. I'm going to use fuchsia because I can always come back and add some ruby, but I don't know if I want to or not. So this I'm going to use a little bit more sparingly than the other two colors, just because it is a lot of color, which is good. That's how I like it. I like how it really mimics the watercolors I had down. I don't want anything too flat though. So I'm gonna just kind of blend down and over and up. Let's see, I'm gonna grab some of the dry brush through some of that. It was a little too bright. Let's grab some ruby, just a touch. Again, never really washing my brush in between paint colors. And that's okay. I find that's okay as long as I really scrub my brush on the paper. I find that it blends it enough. And because I'm sticking with one, like all warms or all cools, especially with this brand, they seem to work really well together. Doesn't cause me a lot of trouble. Just kind of get the color on and then kind of blend it out a little bit. I think a la Bob Ross. Blend, blend, blend. Happy trees, happy trees. Let's see. I'm gonna look from your angle to see if I like it. I feel like maybe a little something here. Okay. Here we have this weird little bald spot up here. Anything else? Do you see anything else? I kind of have this little swatch down here, but that's fine. Remember, this is still background. We haven't like done any of the, you know, we haven't done any stamping or drawing or doodling or playing or being silly. Plus we still have the little white circles. See, this is what the backs of the circles look like. They're kind of ugly, which is why I've chosen them. And I'm gonna lay these out so that I have 30 of them, one for every day of the month of April. And those will be my little tracking tools. So let me, I'm gonna walk away, let this dry. I'm not sure what my next step is going to be, but I usually know as soon as I get back, or as if I mull it over while I am gone. While I am gone, I'm gonna put some stuff on my art studio desk away because it is a hot mess and my desk is super tiny, so I don't really have space to have a hot mess. So I'm gonna step away for a few minutes, clean up my desk, and by the time I'm back, this will all be dry. Okay, so now that that has dried, I pulled out a Dana Wakley Media stamp just because I want some of that messy handwriting on some of the background. Now, I have archival ink in Tree Branch. I don't know what color this actually is. Like, I don't know how dark it is. I could probably test it. It's not exactly the color I want, but I'll start with that. Just kind of haphazardly put down some color. And I don't care about making a full stamp because that's not the point of this. This is just about getting some scribbly text in the background. Because remember, we're going to have 30 of these little white circles on here. Just kind of get it all over the place. I don't know, the messier the better in my mind. So I don't mind blotting it a few times, letting them ghost off and ghost away actually. Overlapping a little bit's fine. I don't really mind any of that too much. This literally is how I clean my stamps anyways. Not sure that's terribly surprising. That's how I roll. I just, you know, the whole art process should be super simple and fun and easy and as stress-free as possible. So that is the Archival Ink Tree Branch. I really like that color. I didn't think I'd like it as much as I do, but I do. I see there's still quite a bit more ink on here, so I'm gonna just kind of stamp it off one last time to get that clean-ish. Then I want to take another stamp. Ultimate Grunge, Bitty Grunge. I use these ones a lot. So let's see if I can find a different one than what I've been using. Like these are the smaller versions of these. Not in its entirety, but like this one is there and there is there. I love this guy. maybe that one should be used, or maybe the crashy looking one. This one always reminds me of an automobile accident. The windshield, that's what that reminds me of. And I don't know what color I'm going to use, but I have all of these distressed inks that I don't really ever use. And I thought about using the aged mahogany, because if I remember correctly, that's kind of a reddy kind of color, reddish color. I'm going to use this guy here. I'm going to do it the exact same way I always use my stamps. I'll kind of like blot it down, but I'm not trying to make a perfect stamp. I'm just trying to get some of that texture onto the page and some of that color onto the page. So we'll just kind of get messy and kind of squish you down. And do that in a few places. Let's see, maybe there. We'll flip you over, because there is a straight line there that I'm not too keen on. But I like the color, so let's call this a success. Okay, oops. Smush you down without getting too much ink on myself. I'm an artist who doesn't like having a lot of paint on my hands. It's been that way since I was really young. I could play outside in the mud all day, and as soon as my hands got dirty, I would come in the house crying. And as long as my mom would wipe my hands off, I can go back outside and play for hours more. Just didn't like having my hands dirty. What's that all about? Anyways. Just kind of putting some more stampage down. I kind of like just touching it to the stamp, because then you really only have that little itty square of stamp of ink on there. I know I'm not speaking English, but I'm trying. Sorry. I only slept for a couple hours last night. I find that every time I lay down, I cough. I end up going into a coughing fit. And once I'm in a coughing fit, I can't seem to get out of it. Not that I'm complaining. I really do feel so much better than I was feeling, so I'm doing all right. So I kind of like that one on the edges. That one seems to still just work that way for me somehow. Like my brain says, yep, that's what we wanted. So let me close this guy. This was the Aged Mahogany Distress Stain. Now I can see that those are still wet, and I don't want to like disturb them. But I feel like I need one more. Something a little bit, actually, you know what? No. I have another idea. I'm going to grab my doodle stuff. And my doodle stuff is usually a black pen, a fat pencil, a regular pencil, a white pen. Because we have warm going on, I'm gonna grab a gold pen. And I'm also gonna grab one of my multicolored pens with pencils, which this is the Kohinoor Hardtmuth Magic Pencil. Now I have 4 of these in my possession, 3 of them here on my desk. I have a red one that has red, blue, purple, white in it. The blue one has blue, purple, yellow, and maroon in it. And the orange one has orange, red, yellow, and burgundy in it. So I'm going to use that one. And we are going to make some mocks. Now, the only thing I'm thinking is that besides letting this dry, I want it to dry. Yep, still not dry. I will have a speckled finger all day. Is that when I finally do lay these little white circles down, they're going to stand off the page rather nicely. But I'm going to have to do something to them to make sure that we have this nice, gorgeous, abstract grunginess in the background. And these are going to be like super stark white dots. And I don't want them to be super stark, super la la. I don't want them to be perfect. I want them to look like they go on the page, not that they were like an afterthought, because they really were the point of the page. So while I'm doing my doodling, I'm going to just be thinking about like, what is it that I want to be doing with this. Now, because it's me, I'm going to do circles, because my brain does circles rather easily. And even though you won't see them terribly well, because they are monochromatic on here, I am happy that they're on here. And remember, they'll only be poking out just a little bit because we have all these other things happening at the same time. So I'm going to take a pencil and I'm going to recreate those circles, holding the pencil way loose on the end Oops. Two reasons. One, I want my drawings, my doodles to be really loose. And two, I want to be careful not to go through the page because some of these are still, some parts of these pages are still wet. Okay. So there's a start. Let's take the fat pencil, do the same thing. It just gives you a fatter mark. So I love that. Now, let's do some, I like petally kind of look, right? If that makes sense. I generally try to do them in odds. I don't always get an odd number in there, but I like doing odds. Don't psychoanalyze that. A lot of times I will count them. Don't always, however. And I'm going to go over them a few times so that they look really nice and scribbly. And remember, they're just going to be barely poking out behind the foreground, which is going to be the little white dots. Okay, let's do some, these will be really kind of dark hash marks. And that's okay, I like that. Let's do another one here. A little bit smaller. Now, because this is graphite, it is going to smudge quite a bit, which is why I like it, because it grunges up your page for you. And I like grungy pages. So I'm going to take a clean paper towel and fold it up, and I'm just going to kind of rub that a little bit. Really get that nice and smudgy. Doing that assures me that it's not going to move unless I want it to move. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. And it kind of softens it just a little bit. Okay? So that is what that is all about. Now I'm going to take my black pen. Like what I'm seeing right away is that right here, there's not a whole lot of anything going on, which could be okay. But let me do some journaling right here. So I'm going to flip it upside down, and I'm going to go really, really, really scribbly, messy. This is really just to go through the process. It's not really meant to be something I'm going to come back to and want to read again, necessarily. Okay, there's my little bit of journaling, my little note to self, essentially. Now, I have 30 of these little guys, I think 30, I probably have to count them out again. And I don't know if I want to lay them out in a grid or if I'm just going to lay them out. So I think that's what I want my little page to look like. Do I want you to watch me do all this? I don't know. Is it terribly exciting for you? Probably not. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my glue, and I'm going to take each one of these little dots, and I just want to use my Aliens Fast Grab Tacky Glue, and I'm going to glue each of these little bad boys down. So let's wrap this bad boy up. I'm not exactly sure what I want to do yet, but I have a couple of ideas. First thing, I want to take my Koh-i-Noor Heart Magic pencil and do circles around almost all of them. And it can be messy. And I don't care if the pencil gets on the circle. I am absolutely okay with that. You know what? I really do like that circle around there, because it's kind of this shade of gold, kind of a yellowy kind of gold. And I love that it's shiny. So I'm just going to stop and take a moment to do this. Okay, so what I think that does, especially being messy on top of the dots, I feel like that kind of pushes them back into the page a little bit. It's not quite so much as an afterthought on top. The other thing I want to do is I pulled out my Amy Tangerine stamps, and I want to pull out my numbers because I want to number my little dots from 1 to 30. And I want to use a shade of brown. So I'm going back to my distress stains, my distress stamps, and I'm going to try 2 out because I don't know what colors they actually look like. One is Gathered Twigs and one is Vintage Photo. So let me move that up a little bit while that's drying. And I'm going to try Vintage Photo first. And I'm going to test with the letter, or the number 1. And it doesn't have to be perfect. I don't want it to be perfect, actually. Let's stamp that one off. The brown's nice. The Vintage Photo. So I really don't use these ever, so I don't really know what they're supposed to look like. That one's a really dark. So this is Gathered Twigs, is a really dark brown. And the Vintage Photo is kind of a lighter brown. If that's, I mean, that's what I'm going to call it. I don't know if that's what it actually is, but I'm going to use the Vintage Photo. And I think I'm just going to kind of go starting at like 1 and then go down. But my goal is to number each dot with the number of the day from 1 to 30. And because this is distressed stain, distressed ink, I'm not expecting it to be beautiful, like perfect. So I think this is pretty much close to ready to be done. At least it's ready to be used starting April 1st. I will decide what my 30-day challenge for myself is going to be, and I will write it up here, like 30 days of meditation or 30 days of getting up at a certain time or 30 days of exercise or whatever it is. And I think what I will do is every day as I do, after I finish whatever it is I've agreed to do for the 30 days, I will come in here and I'll make some kind of a notation saying, you know, how it went. Harder than I thought, easy, I'm tired, yeah, I did it, whatever. And I'll fill in all the ones where I've actually done the work of whatever the 30-day challenge is. But anyways, I hope that this is something that you can be inspired by. You might be able to see. I know it's a little difficult to see some of the doodling and the pen marks with being on camera, but from where I'm sitting, it's pretty cool. I like it. I like the different textures. I like the different colors. I really like the warmth that that how it turned out. This is not normally my type of color scheme, but I'm trying really hard to like branch out a little bit this year, do a little bit different, be a little bit different, and just learn and grow and, you know, go with the flow. So thanks so much for watching. I hope you liked this video. I hope that it gave you some ideas on something you might be able to do in your own soul book. Yeah, don't forget to thumbs up and subscribe. Share this video with your friends so that they can also take a peek at what we're doing over here. And if you do your own soul book, don't forget to hashtag over on Instagram, hashtag soulbook club, so that I can see you. Or you can also tag me at Beautiful Creatives and I will come check it out. I'm always so jazzed to see that there are other people who are joining me on this journey. This soul book has been such a healing process for myself, and I just loved being able to share it with you. So thanks so much for watching. You guys are the best. Thanks for hanging in there with me. I know I missed a couple videos this week because I've been a little bit sick. I'm on the mend. I'm actually feeling great. May not sound so great, but I feel great. So anyways, until next time, I will see you soon. Bye for now.